Okay. Okay. Graded audio, perfect. Yes. Okay, so then we're going to choose your screen here and right there.
Okay, so where do I get my presentation?
Where is it? Is it a PowerPoint?
It's on my laptop.
It's on your laptop. Do you know where it is?
Well, it'll be under,
City bid training right here.
right, let me see, F5, that's the one right there.
Right here?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
And then you go like that.
Go like what? Okay.
Yep. And then you're in presenter mode. So then you just go like this.
Okay, now, and how do I get rid of that?
You just go like this. You can just move it.
Okay,
Yeah. But if you want to see who's attending, you just leave it like
okay,
that or whatever you want to do. Okay.
okay.
All right. I'll be in my office if you need me.
Okay, and, as they come on, they'll just show up, the name will show up alphabetically.
Yep.
Okay.
Good to go.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep. No worries.
How you doing, big guy? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I think at this time you're all unmuted, so you can visit back if you want at this particular point in time. Can anybody hear me?
Yes, I hear you, Jim.
All right, who's this?
This is Bill with Christmas Decor in, Georgia, Chapman Lighting.
Okay, great. We've got a number of people on. There seem to be coming on fairly quickly now. We'll just kind of visit just a minute or two, and then we'll get right into the meeting. Guys, I want to just hit one little subject that's off the deal, and it's just a subject that we've been talking about quite a bit. You know, we've done several surveys, and not just us, but other people too. And on contractors, there's a lot of data that says if your phone is answered by a real person, that in the customer's eye, you're easily fall in the top 10% of all contractors in that area for that particular service that you're rendering. So, we're not Bank of America credit card where we can have you go to a phone and you get a recording, which takes you to a recording, which takes you to a recording, which refers you to a recording and asks you to go back and go to a website instead of calling them. And we're not a doctor's office where we got to have the service. And we're not going to change doctors because they make us hit about 7 different buttons before anybody will think about talking to us. We're in the service business, and it makes a lot of sense that when people call for service, new customers particularly, when they talk to somebody, they normally quit calling other people. But until they actually talk to somebody, they continue to probe and leave messages and this, that, and the other, which creates a competition. So just a little something to kind of kick off the meeting that's not directly related. But at this time, I think I'm, one of the things that's funny about doing these webinars, and last year was the first year I did them. You talk a lot and you just don't know for sure if anybody's out there, because normally everybody's muted and you don't actually get feedback as you go, and you don't get questions. One of the things that you can do if you're not familiar with these, when you got a question and after we mute you, you can raise your hand. There's a button there somewhere that you can touch that's got a hand on it. If you raise your hand, that means you got a question I can ask, then we can get a little feedback as we go along. So from my perspective, I don't mind people raising their hand. We're going to talk a lot about things that I think are important with cities, but I'm not the only one that's done cities, guys. I've done a lot of them, but for other people that's done them, we want your input too, because we all learn from each other. So at this time, unless somebody's got a question, I'm going to mute everybody so that we're not getting feedback from each other on the system. It just makes it a little bit easier on the communication side. Does that make sense? Anybody got any questions? All right, here you go. You're going to go muted. We're going to go ahead and start the program at this time and kind of see where we go from there. The question is, why do we want to do Christmas work? It is the largest single holiday segment in the United States. There's more dollars spent by cities than commercial malls, than just about any other thing. Now, maybe residential dollar-wise, but for commercial, cities are the #1 market in the United States. Every single one of you guys, you got a large number of cities in a 2-hour drive. Do you think, I'm not going 2 hours? Well, you may for a $500,000 deal. You may for a $100,000 deal. But there's a lot of them within a 45-minute drive from virtually every city. Now, we're talking about, the suburbs. Those are all different cities, so it covers a lot of ground. We also have to remember that cities fall under the what we call commercial, which means that there is no protected territory. Cities in general, they love to do business with the same companies repeatedly, which means that if we ever get the business, we have a tendency to keep the business. And they like to do that. They also love to do business with other services with companies that they like and have done business with in the past. So that in itself is an incentive, because now you can move over to your core business. It's common for businesses to start installations early. Normally, they're going to turn their lights on right around or after Thanksgiving, not before, not like commercial businesses in malls where they want them up early. Cities are going to have a tree opening and so forth, a tree lighting ceremony. And so they don't run them quite as long as commercial does, so we don't have as much service on them. It's also common for cities to allow you to take down your lights and so forth later. Your greenery, yeah, they want down, but lights and other things, they don't care for the most part. The beautiful part about cities is they very seldomly buy from low bidder. Occasionally, yes, but most of the time they have a scaled valued system that has other elements in it that apply to it. It may be 25% price, 25% references, 25% if you're somewhere within, local. They've got different evaluations, creativity, ever what it may be. But they have other, what it really means is they got 60, 70, 80% of that bid that they can sway any way they want to. And now, are most of them going to try to do it the way it's supposed to be? Yes. Guys, in my experience, Parks and Recs either does Christmas or they used to do Christmas and they know who does it now. So it is a valuable contact. And if they're not doing it today, I guarantee you they can tell you who is, because they pawned it off on somebody else. I have never been in a city that Parks and Rec director is not a decision influencer. They may not can say yes, but they can sure say no. And I'm not saying that somewhere in there's not some political animal in there and they override everybody, but that's normally not the way things are done. The nice thing about Park and Rec directors, they're normally easier to get to and sit down with than just about anybody else inside a city organization, like the mayor, city manager, business manager, who knows what manager they're talking about. And the other thing that's really good about you guys getting to know the Parks and Rec director is virtually every one of you, what your core business is, chances are that's going to be the person that is also the influencer in that business. So if it's lawn care, tree, chemical, pest, mosquitoes, what it may be, painting, guys, cities spend a lot of money and they like to do business with the same people over and over again. Cities are very much like in Christmas. Cities are very much like commercial accounts. Some cities are going to buy product only. They'll do the work themselves. So you just got a commission off the front side. Some can only buy products, but they want you to install both their new products and their currently owned products. Some want to buy the products and pay you to put it up. Some will do a lease. And it's just, in cities, a lease is just exactly like our service is, except we don't call it service, we call it a lease. Because a lease has a binding agreement with a term on it. It's kind of nice, guys. It really is when you get that 3-year commitment. And it's a term deal. Now, you got to remember that every city I've ever talked to, from population of 1,500 to 3 million, they do some type of Christmas. It just may be 15 pole mounts. It may be a 12-foot Christmas tree because they're a town of 1,000. It may be one FDS piece. I've got one city of about 700 or 800. They got one 11-foot snowflake. And they got a little old bitty, I don't know, indoor tree that they put out there that's about 8 foot tall. And that's all they got. But hey, it was a $10,000 deal. For me, for most of us, our target markets that are between 3,500 and 100,000 people. For me, the 10,000 to 50,000 population was the easiest to close orders and pretty nice to do business with. For me, orders were in 75 to 125,000 population were my largest orders. Some little old bitty towns or some fairly good sized towns, I'd do $800,000 a year for 4 or 5 years, and then I'd get them for 15, 20 grand when they bought something big. But once you're their vendor, it makes it a lot simpler. The largest single deal I've ever did personally, I did $125,000 lease for 5 years. That's $600,000. We did that for 5 years. Our total net profit was 320 grand. And that's after all labor expenses. I mean, everything out of it. So I'm just saying that some of these contracts are really nice. Now, don't get me wrong, the $15,000, $20,000 ones are nice too, because they add up. You know, we're going to talk about now how you get every city that you want to send you every single job in your market. Every city, whether or not it be your core business or your Christmas business. And this is where you need to pay real close attention, guys. All government, city governments, all governments actually use an SIC code to identify different products and services they use. Cities are absolutely on that program, so are counties, federal governments, etc. So everybody's on it, state, or whatever. But for us, all bids are all bids let by the cities or government is required to display these codes if they could be applied, if they could apply. So they may have 4 or 5 different codes because they say, well, that could be it, that could be it, that could be it. So they'll put several codes in there. But if you have 3 different cities that are bidding the same job, they may have different, you know, a common code, but you don't know which one is going to be common because they're choosing from 10, and all of them have 2 or 3, but only one common code. So most of these will have several different SIC codes listed just for the city to make sure they're covering all the state requirements. Now, here's the greatest thing ever. If they will if we sign up, they will automatically send you a bid every single time and ask you to be someone that looks at this as if you want to do it or not. Now, this is where it's so great is, I'm going to hang on just a second. I'm going to look and just make sure nobody got their hand up. Okay. So let me drag this back down here. We're out of my way. If your city is registered with, I mean, if your company is registered with the city and you apply all your SIC codes, that you may want to do work for. This doesn't mean you got to do it. If you just think, well, you know, I don't know if I want to do landscape lighting or not. Well, if you want to look at the bid, put in the SIC code. If you want to do holiday lighting, put in your SIC code. If you want to do mosquito work, put in your SIC code. This is for the rest of your business life. They will send them directly to you every single time. Nice. Here's the holiday SIC codes. And this right here covers probably 90% of the Christmas bids that are out there. If you've got these codes entered as part of your code for Christmas and holiday lighting is what they call it, or holiday decor, that you will get any bids from them. But just to make things interesting, here's a few more that are not normal, but occasionally they use, and it covers other things besides Christmas, and you get a lot of other bids that don't have anything to do with Christmas. And there's a few more that may occasionally raise something. So if you want to get a list of all these codes, if you will send me an email to this address, I will send you all the SIC codes that I've got for Christmas. But not only that, I will send you all the SIC codes that I have for core business, which means that I'll have a lot for landscaping, chemical work, pest control, pruning, mosquitoes. I got a lot of other SIC codes that may fall inside your core business. If you'd like to enter those when you register, I think it would be helpful. You got to ask me, guys. If you do, you'll get them. Here's what I suggest you do on registration. The way registration goes, you got to have somebody that gets it done. If you'll go to the city website, somewhere on there on the top heading at every one that I've ever looked at, it's had something for vendors. If you click on vendors, then it will say, hey, do you want to register as a vendor? This is where your point person, your get it done person, has to be somebody that has a little bit more computer knowledge than me, which is just about everybody. If you register as a vendor, then from that point forward, you'll get every single bid that fits in the categories that you have registered an SIC code for. To me, if you just say, I am going to make this a project, not a project that we sit down and do 40 cities, but a project that you say, get it done person, this is on your get it done for every single week that you register 1, 2, 3, ever what you said, that you register those cities. Some of them, guys, are real easy to do. Some of them are set up, I think, to keep people from registering. I'll send you back a code and you send it back in, and then I'll let you go to another step and I'll send you, most of them are you just go in and give them all the information they want. Now, what they are going to want, for sure, they're going to want your tax ID number. They may want a done in bad street number. So if you don't have that, start getting it. They want to know if you're local. They, want to know how long you've been in business. You got insurance. They got a lot of questions. After you do 4, 5, 6 of those, you'll have all the information that whoever who's putting it in will have all the information at their fingertip. The first ones may take an hour or two, but most of the time it's about 25 to 30 minutes for the hard ones and 15, 20 minutes for the smaller, easier ones. But guys, there's a lot of money in them there hills. The last time I worked for a franchise, which was a large one, we did about $700,000 a year in the city business, and that's a fair chunk, and that's every year, guys. I think we put up 18 trees, 20 feet to 50 feet, and so, like I say, it's a fair amount of business. What happens after you get registered? As time goes by, you'll start getting emails with bids. About 80% of these bids are going to be for some project that you probably don't care about it, and it'll take you about 10 seconds to delete it. So it's no big deal. But the jackpots come along too, guys. And most of the time, they'll have a place on there you have to click on the download to see the actual bid itself. And again, all these bids in each one of these cities are going to have things set up a little bit different. So you can't say, hey, I did it this way last time, this is what it's going to be. You kind of just got to go with the flow, and what the customer, which is the city, how they want you to do, you just follow their lead. And when you first download these things, guys, just go down to and it's normally about 10, 15 pages into the bid. It gives you the actual this is what we want. And you can look at that and say, hey, that's something I'm interested in. And then, hey, if it is, then you print it out and you go through it and you start taking the steps. But sometimes they say it's going to be decor, holiday decor, and it's for a parade. And hey, you don't want to do that. So you don't have to read all those documents telling you things that you don't need to know because you're not going to bid it anyway. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Most bids will have a required bid review. In other words, they want you to come in at a certain time to sit down where everybody interested in that job, they can explain for, directly to you what they're expecting. I like those better than when you just get a bid and you say, I want to do 30 trees and I want to do 4 buildings and some photo ops. Well, that's too many variables in there. You don't know how big the trees are, don't know how much roof line, etc. But either way, you still got to play the game the way it is. Sometimes it's very clear what they want. Sometimes you got no earthly idea after reading that bid. And so you have to get with them and get some understanding. Sometimes they buy a product, that's okay, as long as you make money. Sometimes they want you to pay for installing only what they already own, that's okay, as long as you make money. Sometimes they want you to lease a turnkey lease, the service, everything included, that's all right, as long as you make money. Guys, we got to think a little bit different when we get into commercial and city business. Somebody that is not who we're talking to has already made the decision how that entity is going to do business. They may be an entity that says we're going to lease, and that falls right inside of our wheelhouse. But they may say we just want somebody to come in and put up what we got, which I have done a ton of times and made a lot of money, but I price it to where I'm going to make money. And sometimes it's just selling product. Hey, it's just mailbox money. I don't, place the order, send it to them, collect the money, no big deal. And as long as I'm their go-to person, pretty easy money. The larger cities normally have a policy in place and you're not going to change it. So you don't waste your time trying to change City Hall, because guys, that's a tough deal. But I suggest you spend your time thinking about how to make money by agreeing to follow the policies that each individual city has. We all know that City Hall is a tough place to go change. And in the state of Texas, one city council cannot bind next year's city council to an agreement. So in the state of Texas, when I go in and I do a 3-year lease with the city, I fully expect that 3-year lease to be honored. But if next year's city council comes along and kicks my butt out, they've got the right to do that. And I have zero protection. And I suspect that's the way it is in virtually every city, every state. I've done millions and millions of dollars worth with business with cities. Of all the cities that I've done business with, I've had one terminate a lease, and that was on year 2, before year 2 started. And it was a $30,000 deal. I had about $25,000 worth of product, 22, something like that in that deal. I got all the product, I kept it obviously. So basically, the thing that happened to me is I got $22,000 worth of core product back and lost the deal, but I still made money. I done a lot that I just did labor, and so I'm bidding it. When I do labor, I look, okay, how many hours am I want to have on this? I want to return to $70 to $85 per man hour. It may be, and that's in my market in the state of Texas. That pretty well covers most of our state, smaller towns and bigger cities. But it may be in yours, it's 65, and it may be 110. But you know your market, where you're at. Just make sure that you bid it to where you make money on the labor side. After you get the bid and you get the communication, it's just like any other account. You don't take any shortcuts. You got to do the prospecting. I mean, you don't have to do the prospecting, but you do have to do the fact finding. You do have to make advocates inside the city that are going to help you get the program done, because you're not going to be talking to the decision maker in most cases. You're going to be talking to the influencer. In some cities, they want you to design the program. In other words, they're saying that what we want is we want a tree, we want a lot of photo ops, we'd like to have some of the trees lit along the way, and we want at least 15 pole mounts on light poles, ever what it may be. But this is our budget. Come back and tell us what it should look like. That's nice because, hey, you can have 4 bids and you can be by far the highest, but they like yours the best and they can spend the money on you because they like your design. So, but it puts a little bit more pressure on you from you got to design the program. Others are, this is what we want done, and we want everybody to bid the same job, so give us a bid on this work. And again, they have most of them have the capability of saying price is not the only definitive answer. So it's what most bids are in commercial. I have had an awful lot of luck, and I think you will too, by presenting leases. And this cities like leases for several reasons. One reason is that they don't have to bid every year. So, and it's a lot of work for these guys to put out a bid and go through the process and all the crap that it goes through for them to be able to do business. That's number one. Number two is if they purchase and do the labor year one, they're limited just by that year's budget. But if it's a lease, you can normally get more product and more displays for the same amount of money because you're kind of spreading some of that value over 3 years. And guess what? In cities, once they get a line item on the budget, it virtually never goes away. So, and, guys, this is the same with commercial accounts. They like to do term leases because they don't have to go out and bid that thing every year, and they don't have to go through all that process. I think if you don't look at doing business and putting up lights and product that cities have, that you're missing big opportunities, and you'll have to do a lot more bids to get your fair share. You still need to make these things when you do your bid where you got a 35 to 40% net margin, and that's where you want to keep your Christmas from along the way. Let me just see if anybody got their hand up here. I've got this thing hid down there where I can't see it. All right, go it down again. All right, here's some things along the way, guys, that I've learned the hard way. Cities work a lot of the same, but I've never seen two cities work exactly the same. All the heads of city departments, let's just say the head of Parks and Rec. Chances are, if you gave them the list of 10 cities around them, they would know the name and telephone number of everybody that's the head of Parks and Rec. They'll probably know his number too, because they're thinking about trying to steal him. But they all go to the same meetings. They all go to the same training sessions. They communicate a lot. So one of the good things about it, when you get inside of cities, man, the reference to other cities, it plays big. So does a negative hurt you. The head of most departments in cities have a credit card that they can take care of small purchases. So if they need, $1,500 worth of lights for this or that or the other, they can pull out their credit card, give you a credit card number, bang, it's over with. No PO, no nothing. Some of these guys, they have the limit of $300 in one day from one vendor. City of Dallas, the guys that's over their Parks and Rec department, he can spend $50,000 a day per vendor with no PO. Now, because he can, doesn't mean he will, because these guys are CYA guys too. If it's something that's required to make things happen in time sensitive, he'll do it. But if it's just, hey, I'm going to do Christmas down the road, it's going to go through the bid process because he's going to cover his butt. But it is nice after you get a rapport with these guys, they just call and say, do you got this? And you say, I can get it. And they say, here's a credit card number. Send me the material. And it's kind of nice, but you got to be a registered vendor. Again, just a little bit of it. Every bid requires a date, time, and a place for every bid to be received by. Most of the time, it'll tell you exactly the form it has to be filled out and completed. Guys, there is not 30 seconds exception to this. If you're 1 minute late in delivering a bid, your bid will not be accepted. If you send it to the wrong place, if you don't send the number of copies it requires, if you don't send it on the forms that are required, there's just no exceptions to these things, guys. So once you do the work to put this thing together, make sure you do it timely, etc. One of the odd things that's really in transition and has been for about 5, 6, 7 years now is a lot of the cities are using outside vendors or services to post and manage bids. Some of these services are national, but some are more regional or state or even portions of a state. Some of them, everybody in that area has to be a player. Sometimes it's in the state of Texas, you can be in several different ways you can do it. You can do it or I take care of everything, or you have one of these vendors. They set these third-party vendors up as protection against somebody coming back and saying, y'all are not following the bid process completely, and you've got a preferred vendor, and you're running them the business and getting a kickback. So they want to have a paper trail where they can prove that they followed all the rules. So they hire an outside vendor to post all these, collect all the bids, make sure everything's done. Now, the outside vendor has nothing to do with the decision. It's just make sure procedures are followed. Sometimes there's a fee for you to on these services for you to automatically receive bids from these services. A lot of times, and that you know, we hire some services guys that we get bids, and we spend about, I don't know, $7,000 a year on these services. So we get a lot of this stuff ourselves, but we never get it all, and we never make a relationship. We're just sending information out to the field that this may be an opportunity. And but when you get these bids from the city, sometimes they'll come from somebody like BidSync, Contractors Network, or you know, ever what any of these services are called, and it'll make it sound like you have to pay a fee. Most of the time, that's not true, but it certainly, it'll look like it. So you gotta, if you don't know for sure, call the city, they'll tell you. And most of the time, if you're signed up as a vendor, you will skip those fees, even though the service has to send you the stuff. You can send it back to them. But what the service will not do is send you information on a bid to the city next door unless you're registered with that vendor too. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So I'm just saying, this is one of the reasons I say they're all alike but different. And each one of these services are different. There's probably about 25 or 30 of these different services running around trying to convince cities that they should be inside their bid process. And they have some validity to them, guys. It's not all just trying to create a service that nobody needs. We pay, like I say, we pay about $6,000 a year, maybe $7,000, to get bids that we think will help our franchisees in some way. Guys, nobody will run this business like you do. So you're going to do better at it than we do. After you get the bid, do the information gather. You want to call one of us, or the FCs, somebody for support, ask us questions. Man, this is in the learning curve. I recommend it. Spend a little time. Just don't call us, 6 hours before the bid's due. Again, guys, at the very bottom of the page here, there is my email address. If you'll send me an email, I will send you back. I'll send you back the whole PowerPoint presentation. It will probably be the easiest. And it'll have all the information in it. They have all the SIC codes, both for Holiday and a lot of SIC codes for core businesses. I'll add that to it also, that are just strictly for core businesses. And at this time, I'm going to well, I thought I was going to. Hang on. Guys, I think I'm turning on everybody's.
Whatever. I don't know if I did Wildwood, that area, but I did Chartwell, Foxborough, and like basically from my neighborhood toward
Yeah.
mom and dad's old house.
I was more thinking like for the.
All right, guys, I think I've got everybody on the speakerphone now. I think I do. Well, maybe not.
Do you on speakerphone or no? I'm thinking for the flyer, for the door hangers, we like need to make sure it's probably even a smaller area than what you guys talked through with her. But like I think that Cardinal neighborhood there behind like Teardrop, Nelson Ridge would be good. I mean, I think like Bernadone, that neighborhood, because we've had people in there. We've got kind of that Edgewater and that couple like
Okay. Who's talking now?
whatever that one is. There's also we've had a couple fertilizer people in here, but I don't know what it's called. The one behind McDonald's down there on Laraway.
Yeah, that would be a
Rachel
good one.
Ridge. Yeah, Rachel Ridge or something like that. Because it's a lot of like those
Hey,
lots
guys.
that are all the same size, and I think we could do some damage in there. Hopefully not like damage in like we're tearing up their yard.
Hey, Jim, somebody
Yeah,
just talking to themselves
other-
or what's going on?
the
Easy marketing, we'll say,
guys,
is
if we could get everybody's attention,
going through our
and
firm.
if you got questions in
you know,
regards to
we
the
do offer cutting services. Do you
Mr.
Well,
Val,
like us to?
But
Jim,
even
is
too,
it
like
not-
we
is it
still
Jay
have like a
Ketchum at the
handful of
decorgroup.com?
fertilizers coming throughout Lamont.
yeah,
Like,
it's Jim, it's
maybe
Jay
those
Ketchum.
neighborhoods were already in the first couple rounds.
Jay Ketchum at the decorgroup.com.
You talked about a little bit,
Yeah.
but butterfly, because we're already going up there, you know.
Thank you, Jim.
I think we got competition here, guys.
The neighborhood actually wouldn't be like a terrible one to get some like more
Yeah,
cutting and
it's
fertilizer.
just a little more hassle to butterfly those.
Yeah.
Because you got all the way.
Okay, I think we finally got Gary cut off there. I am not having much luck on getting anybody that needs something to raise their hand. There's a little button there that shows a raise a hand. Somebody got their hand up here. Let me see who it is. All right, Brad, can you talk now? Brad, can you hear me? Brad, can you hear me? You had your hand up there, Brad. I thought maybe you had something. I may be an operator problem on this end, but I don't think so. All right, guys, we're through it a little bit early. I think this is the easiest way I know of for companies to actually come into the market, the commercial market. It's kind of the toughest single thing in commercial business is finding the person to talk to. In cities, it's easy. You sign up as a vendor, they call you and say, hey, we're open for business. This is what we want. And where in commercial, you got to go through and figure out who manages the property, who it is, what their budget is. There's a lot of information. It takes a while to get going. But on cities, if you just do the administrative part and sign up as a vendor, And don't get me wrong, guys, there is a little bit of education in going through the different hoops that they make you go through. But once you're in through those little hoops, it's, 5 years from now, you're still going to be getting bids. If there's anything that you put in as an SIC code, you're going to get a bid on it. It may not be something you want to bid. It's easy to delete. But, I probably look at 30, 40 opportunities a day on what we have in the market at this time of year. And we may only, 1 or 2 or 3 of them may apply. But gosh almighty, most all of them are 30, 40, $50,000 opportunities. So you don't have to have very many of those as a franchise to really move the needle in your own business. So that's what we're encouraging. Guys, we're through a touch earlier. And if I could figure out how to get everybody to open up at one time, I would do that. But it seemed like my limited amount of technical knowledge doesn't allow me to do that. So I am going to close this down unless somebody has got their hand raised. And I still think that Brad has his hand raised, but I can't. Brad, can you hear me? All right, guys, I think we're done. I appreciate your coming, and I fully encourage you to set up and come to these webinars or assign people in your companies. You're not going to learn everything. Knowledge, your own business corporate knowledge, and that's worth a lot. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.